Hello and welcome to another Smarter Engineering podcast. This is what, podcast 3?
I think so.
Right. All right. My name is Derek, and I've joined with Jesse Sprague, who's our resident, we'll call you render video editing guy. I mean, you're going to put the title or the descriptions on our names anyway, so you'll figure it out. So I want to start off with this story, Jess. Last week I had a presentation. I like to start off all of my presentations with a rendering of either the product that we're going to be talking about, what we're going to be discussing, just because I think that it adds a little bit of flair, right? And as I was talking with all of our SOLIDWORKS customers, I was like, you guys all have this product. It's SOLIDWORKS Visualize, comes included with professional and premium versions of SOLIDWORKS as long as you're on maintenance, but no one knows that it exists. I was like kind of just doing throwing it in there, and I see everyone vigorously writing down Visualize question marks on their notepads, and then one of the guys actually went back to work and told me that he even had Visualize already installed on his computer. So I think we need to talk about some Visualize awareness here.
It's a Visualize public service announcement.
A little PSA going on. So like I already mentioned, Visualize comes with every seat of Pro and Premium, as long as you're on maintenance, and it doesn't tie up a seat of SOLIDWORKS, so the marketing department can use it, engineers don't have to use it, and it's even CAD neutral. You don't have to use it with SOLIDWORKS files. But the question that I always get when we talk about Visualize is PhotoView 360, right? PhotoView 360 has always come as a part of SOLIDWORKS, and now
for ages. Exactly,
and they're now including Visualize with it as well. So can you talk about the differences between PhotoView 360 and Visualize? And I mean, I prefer Visualize. I know you do as well, but what can you talk about it?
I did a webinar actually. It's still up on our YouTube channel if you want to go check it out. This was probably years back. Frankly, it's not a great video, but I tried to compare the two on paper, and I thought it would be more of a discrepancy on paper than it looked like. And there's certainly some differences, but I think for me what it comes down to is just usability between the two products. I had used PhotoView 360 up until Visualize came out. Since Visualize has come out in 2016 or whatever that was, I haven't opened PhotoView 360 again, except for some tech support cases. So there is definitely a difference in the way that the two products work. I think that Visualize is faster, but it feels a lot faster than it really even is. And it's faster for a couple of different reasons, I think. So PhotoView 360 makes use of the CPU. So you're rendering off of your computer CPU and the graphics are just running SOLIDWORKS stuff. Visualize can take advantage of both sides of your machine. So you can run, in my case on my laptop, I run both of them in what's called hybrid mode. So it's taking advantage of the CPU and the GPU at the same time, your graphics card. So that definitely speeds things up because you've got a lot more hardware essentially to throw at it. That plays into the second factor that I like about Visualize, and that is it's a what you see is what you get rendering, which is a phrase that kind of gets tossed around, but basically that just means that what you're looking at is a preview of the rendering as it's going. PhotoView 360 has something like that. It's called the integrated preview, but it's pretty sluggish and it's kind of tough to work with. So you're kind of waiting for things to come along. Where Visualize, it's pretty snappy. Like as soon as you're making changes, you're seeing those updates.
Yeah,
happen.
I mean, I've used PhotoView 360 maybe a handful of times, and I know that when you go to make just a slight rotation, and it tries to update that integrated preview, you're waiting for a bit, and you can't actually get exactly what you're looking for.
Yeah.
But as you talk about GPU and CPU, what are the hardware requirements? Because I feel like that's like question number 2 in the list of Visualize questions that we get frequently.
Yeah, definitely. I won't go too much in depth of what the actual specifics are, but you can really use Visualize on pretty much any system. So it will run CPU only or GPU only or a combination of the two. It is kind of limited by whichever is the slowest of the two. So if you've got a screaming fast CPU and a pretty slow graphics card, you may want to play with those settings to try to see what is best optimized for your system, but it gives you control over that. The system works off of the NVIDIA CUDA cores. So the more CUDA cores your graphics card has, the better chance it's going to be quicker. There are some other cards that are coming along the way. AMD has something that they're coming along with. I'm not sure exactly what that's going to be, but they have support coming along for it. Since so many people are using the product, there's kind of growing support for it. But currently, the NVIDIA is the platform that it works the best on. So if you're looking to buy new hardware or something like that for the purposes of rendering, the CUDA course is probably the best thing that you can look for. On my tower, I run just GPU only. On my laptop, I run a combination.
Okay, that's really good to know. Now, if some of our customers, like you guys, are out there looking at cards, you know, I'm not going to recommend a specific card, but when you're looking at number of CUDA cores, is there a certain number that we recommend that you stay higher than, or just kind of say most of the cards fall between this range if you're looking for rendering?
Not necessarily. I would say probably give us a call if you're looking to buy something and you're unsure if it's in the right range. But I just go by the motto is more is better. So whatever you can afford that has more CUDA cores, I tend to go for that. And obviously there's other considerations depending on what you're trying to do with large assemblies or things like that might play a role too.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
And the other question that we get a lot is, you know, we talk about, or a lot of our customers know that PhotoView's kind of an add-in to SOLIDWORKS, right? It runs right directly within the user interface. Visualize is its own separate product.
It is.
Now, how does that play with updates? I know there's an option for automatic updates, but how well does that work, and how beneficial is it?
Yeah, it works really well, actually, I think. So having the built-in rendering of PhotoView 360, initially I thought when Visualize came out, I was like, it's kind of nice to have things built in, but I actually really like having a separate standalone system because the interface is more focused towards what you need to do in rendering. So in SOLIDWORKS, you've got a lot of different tools going on for different purposes. They're all organized pretty well, but with Visualize, the only purpose that you're in there for is rendering. So everything is geared towards that. They can set things up to be exactly where you need them to be, and everything is comfortable to get to and easy to access. So you don't have any extraneous tools kind of kicking around. And as you mentioned, the updating does work pretty well. So if you're working on something in SOLIDWORKS, you make some changes, you can push it to the model, but it goes the other way too, in that you don't necessarily have to. So if you do want to cut things off and say, at this point, I want to make a rendering of it, I don't care what happens in the model, you can do that too. So you've got more options, I think.
That's a good point. And I know you're a huge keyboard shortcut warrior over there, so I feel like with that PhotoView, there's some shortcuts in Visualize that you would use, but in PhotoView, you can't, because that's a shortcut that's allocated to something else in SOLIDWORKS.
Yeah, right. You've got dedicated shortcuts, which are now customizable this year too.
There you go. Well, the other thing about Visualize is, you know, the standard version's included in Pro and Premium, but there is a professional level version that includes a lot of other functionality.
Yeah.
And some of my favorite being some AR, VR. Is there a professional level feature that you find is being the best for our customers, or do you have a favorite? I mean, we can kind of go through a few of them here.
Yeah, I mean, well, animations in general would
true.
probably be the next step to move on. But one of the nice things about learning Visualize, and obviously there's the learning hump to get over with any software. But one of the things that I like with learning Visualize is that you can expand onto a lot more options than you could with learning PhotoView 360, for example. And the animations I find a whole lot easier to use in Visualize. Again, that's a pro feature. But I find them a lot more easy to use and a lot more capable. You've got things like the turntable. With one click, you can set up a quick swipe around your model, and they interface still with how your animations are set up in SOLIDWORKS. So initially, I was a little worried about animations in that, well, I'd like to set up all my key information, using the tools that SOLIDWORKS has available. Well, all of that is still there, and all of those keys just import directly into Visualize, and then you can go from there. So if you do need to tweak things in Visualize, you can do that. But any animations that you've set up in SOLIDWORKS will just carry right over. So you can use things like the Make controller and any of the wizard tools to set up all of those keys, and then just send them right over onto Visualize and get the output that you were looking for.
Awesome. I also have seen a couple VR animations.
Yeah.
So you can set up your animations, but then you can hook it over right into a VR, so you can use the like the Oculus or things like that, which is, it's crazy. I see technology moving that way, and it's nice to see that Visualize has included some of that functionality in, because we know it's going that way.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the other things that I really like about Visualize, is that a lot of future-proofing, I guess I'll call it, is being built into the software. So even if it's not things that you're going to be using immediately, they're already being built into the software. So when you get to a point where you need it, it's already there. And VR and AR is a perfect example of that. Some of them are already pretty useful. I mean, you can set up orbits and things like that you can run right up on your website right now. But they have export to the NVIDIA holodeck and things like that are really kind of getting pretty crazy. That is already being built into the software. So it gets a ton of updates along the way, which is cool. There's a lot of development that goes into it. Things like the AI denoiser that they came out with.
That is awesome.
Yeah, just a little bit ago. And that just gets enhancements and enhancements. I was just working with a specific texture the other day, and it wasn't quite working the way that I thought. And one of the guys from Visualize said, well, did you try it in the recent Surface Pack? Because they actually fixed that. And sure enough, loaded it up, and they had already fixed that type of noise. So it's continually learning. It's an artificial intelligence. Yeah, artificial intelligence. So they keep building more and more into it. So it's really cool to be working with a software that's just continually getting a lot of development.
That's awesome. And for all of you out there who are watching this and thinking that we're kind of speaking a little bit of foreign language here on some of it, we do offer training for Visualize. Jesse actually wrote most of the training manuals. We have a ton of videos on YouTube as well. So if some of this stuff doesn't really make any sense currently, feel free to go to our YouTube channel. Jesse's got a ton of videos. I got a couple videos on Visualize specifically.
Yeah,
you can learn a lot of information.
We do have a lot of content. SolidWorks has a class now, and then, like you said, I wrote my own. So we've got a ton of resources on this particular product.
The benefit for these guys is that Visualize is a lot of fun to talk about and a lot of fun to use. So we make a lot of content just because we enjoy it.
It's definitely one of my favorite products that's come along in a while.
That's true.
And the nice thing is, sorry to cut you off, but the nice thing is too, even if you don't know a whole lot about it, I think it's pretty explorable. Even if somebody, you check out one of our videos and just get a quick running start, you can usually find your way around in there pretty quickly. And I find people get a pretty good handle on it in a short amount of time.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about earlier. We were saying that with Visualize, it's not necessarily about the tool and the software itself. We said that you could learn the software to an extent in like half a day or even a day. And then the rest of it is just all about figuring out, playing around, tweaking the lights, and really getting what you're looking for. So we think the software is very easy to learn. The rest of it is not necessarily about the software, but about having the eye to do it.
Yep. Yeah, and I think Visualize really lends itself to helping you in that department, because being that system that what you see is what you get, you're watching the rendering progress in real time. So as you're making those changes, you're seeing how that's going to affect the impact the final outcome. So that lets you make a lot more changes along the way, right? If you're instantly seeing that, you can try this and try that and try this and try that. So you can ratchet through a lot more iterations to get to a nicer final result much quicker.
That's awesome. So that's a great point. That's what you see is what you get. That's a great analogy for it.
Yep.
But so what if some of our customers are working with textures that don't automatically come with Visualize? I know that's a big question with Photo View. Is there a place that we can go to find these textures? Can we download these right from the internet?
Yes, and that is growing by the day as well. So they just added support for a bunch of new file formats recently. So kind of universal material formats we can now bring right into Visualize and use those. So you can create any of your own appearances while you're going. You can save those to the database. So if you create something that has a specific texture and look, that's something you use on a regular basis, save it right out and it'll be there for you the next time. But all over the web, you can find all sorts of materials that you can purchase or free ones that you can pull down and make use of. And like I said, the number of file formats we can use in that is growing rapidly. So there's a lot of stuff out there for that.
Awesome. There's also a website that I ran across that I've used before a few times. It's a place called HDRI Haven. For environments. So you can go on there on that website. All the environments are free. It's an HDR 3D sphere of just for your lighting and backdrop. So you can go on there, download. He also runs a service. I'm not sure exactly where he's located, but there's people that can create an HDR environment for the exact scene or where you are. Talk about getting realistic, right?
Yeah, I know. Hopefully sometime we'll be able to offer that too. I just got to convince somebody to buy me a 360 camera. But there are local people I know that will do that.
They're like 16K raw files or 16K.
Yeah, HDR Havens they're big. He's got a great wealth of resources there too.
What about some other plugins for Visualize that you think are really cool?
Actually, that's a good segue. So HDR Haven is a place where you can download environments. One of the ones that we sell is HDR Light Studio, and that allows you to actually create from scratch your own. So you can load in an image, you can load in all of your lights. They have preset lights in there. I've done a few videos on that content as well, and that software is awesome. You can really dial in exactly what you're looking for in seconds. It's so fast.
The thing that I love about that is I did watch your video specifically. You kind of pick the size light that you want, and you pick on the model where you want the light to hit, and like it just happens.
We'll put a highlight here. We'll put a highlight here. Done. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. So I want to get back to some of these pro level functionalities, right? Okay. We talked about AR, VR. One of my favorites, which is kind of like flies completely under the radar, is the render queue.
Oh, yeah.
That one, I'm pretty sure we sold a professional level seat just because of that.
Yeah, I believe that.
Because with PhotoView 360, when you're ready to hit render, you get all ready and you final render, and you just have to sit and let your computer sit there and chug it away as you're just twiddling your thumbs. With the render queue, you can just say send a queue. You can go work on another project or a different colorway of that, which gets into another point. And you can just build up 5, 6, 7 renders, and then when you're ready to go home at hopefully 5 o'clock, right? You hit that start, and by the time you come in the next morning, they're all said and done.
Yep, exactly. Or even bigger projects, I like that a lot. If I'm doing a bunch of smaller or smallish movie clips, right? If you're running animations, that takes an extended amount of time. You've got to render each one of those frames. But sometimes you can fit a handful of those clips over a day or over the weekend or whatever. So to queue those all up and then just kick them all off and have them all done really does save a ton of time.
Yeah, absolutely. And then like I mentioned, the different colorways. So configurations is another part of your animation. So if you have a product that has multiple different colors that you're trying to propose to be built or for prototypes, you have 5, 6 colors. In the old version or in the standard version, you have to hit render, wait till it's done, change the color, hit render, do it again. But with the configurations and the queue, you can just say, render all configs when I go home at 5 and be done with it. So that's one of my favorite professional level features.
Yeah, that's a great one.
What are some other, I don't want to say other things that we have in Visualize that may make the renderings kind of pop a little bit more than PhotoView, right? So I'm a big fan of the appearance and the textures and how we can really manipulate those. But going on that and some other things, what do you think really make Visualize pop over some of the other packages?
Well, there's a couple of things I think that maybe just in terms of ease of use, but the way the camera works in Visualize is really nice. Obviously, you and I do a lot of camera work. It's very analogous to working with a physical camera, which is really nice for anybody that's familiar with that process. It works exactly the same, but some of the shortcuts that are built in for cameras really let you get an interesting perspective very quickly, more quickly than you could with an actual camera, right? I'm thinking about the focal length adjustment that you can run. So I think just to be able to get in there and not really think too much about the process of what you're doing, just to be able to directly do it is really helpful to getting a more interesting result. I know I find myself just kind of scrolling in and out, just trying things to see what things look like that you wouldn't necessarily be able to do in real life or in other packages. Lets you get to a better result more quickly, right? Anytime you can just try things and see how they work, you have a greater chance of finding something that you like. So that's something that I really like, the way the camera works. But something that is also added in Pro, you have the ability to run filters over the top of that right away.
That's true.
So if you don't have any ability to post-process or anything like that, through Photoshop or Lightroom or anything like that, you can add in some filters that are already just kind of preset to what you kind of want the final result to look like and not have to worry about it. It'll just be rendered right in, baked right into the image, and you're all set.
So when you talk about post-processing, you just mean maybe like just making those colors pop a little bit more?
Yeah, maybe bumping the contrast or whatever you're trying to do with it.
Perfect. Yep. Absolutely. So I think this is a really good segue when we're talking about cameras and getting into it, is talking essentially about how we see Visualize being used. I think a lot of the connotation for the software is that it's just a rendering package and it's just for if you're doing marketing content. I started off the story by saying I throw it into my presentations, but I'm a big visual person. I like to use Visualize just to kind of see how something looks. So I did a project in my house where I built my own kitchen island. And what I did is I took a picture of my kitchen and then I built it in SOLIDWORKS and then put it in there. And I was just trying to see if, number one, if it looked good in my kitchen, but I also wanted to see if the stain that I was going to, just the color stain would match, if I should paint it. So those are some other things, just being able to visually see what's going on. And then you have some other really good use cases for it as well.
Yeah, I find that people just in general, if you can see something in its environment and really looking like it belongs there, it really sells the piece so much easier than anything else. Even if you can have it just rendered on its own, for some reason, just seeing it where it's supposed to be really helps you make that leap between, okay, this is what it's actually going to look like. I can get behind this project, or that maybe we need to tweak this or tweak that. But there are a lot of different use cases. It just, the past tech tip that I posted up, I used it to make some little icons of, it was a torch in this case. We have to heat this thing up, or maybe you have to weld it or something like that, just to make a little icon that kind of looked nice and clean that I could use from there on out on any other projects.
For documentation.
For documentation, yep exactly. So there's a ton of different purposes I think you could have for a rendered result. It could go on your website, could go on a brochure, all sorts of stuff. With the digital content, they could go anywhere really nowadays.
Right. Yeah, we'll make sure that we link your latest tech tip down below. And then also I wrote a blog on my kitchen island, so we'll link that below. And my dad actually thought that the rendering that I sent him was real. He's like, wow, you did that really fast. Yeah. But there was another customer of ours that used rendering for their own, for promoting or trying to get their product to be launched So what they did is they went to the actual store where they were going to sell their product. They took a picture of it, and then they went back and rendered their product in the store, and then used that to try and win the bid.
Yeah, that's
and
clever.
They actually did win the bid, but it's not necessarily just for trying to sell your product. In this case, they were trying to sell the idea of it.
Yeah.
But we're talking about just
exactly what I was saying. It's so much easier to visualize it when it's there where it's supposed to be.
Where it's supposed to be. Absolutely. And we're just trying to make the point that it's not solely about marketing and pictures, right? There's so many other things that we can use it for when we talk about colorways and just trying to get that product in. Yep. Right. So Visualize is one of my favorite products to use. I know it's your absolute favorite. So we really wanted to just kind of cover the awareness and make sure that everyone who has Visualize or has SOLIDWORKS Pro or Premium is actually using it, because there's so many cases that you can use it for. Even if you don't use it at work, I'm sure you can find a project at home that you can use it for. So Jesse, anything else to add for today?
I don't think so. Give us a call if you need a hand.
Yeah, absolutely. And then if you have any hardware requirement questions, feel free to reach out to us, and we can make sure that we get you the right hardware for the right job.
Yep.
All right, thanks everyone. See you on the next one.
Bye.